Hi, in this video we'll be going over some more C# concepts. So we'll be moving on to decision structures and the if statement. So in the last video we talked about group boxes and panels. So now we'll talk about control structures. So basically decision structures and control structures. So a decision structure allows a program to perform actions only under certain conditions. So you can use an if statement to write a decision structure. We'll talk about if, else, and then else if. So we'll just maybe jot a few of those down. Don't need to do the whole thing. Sorry, I lost my mouse here. Where did that go? Okay, so there we go. So we have here decision structures, if statement. So we may have used the if statement before. You've probably seen it in my other videos if you watch those. It's used all the time in programming. So you have so a decision structure allows a program. I'll probably just, I don't think I'll type all these out, it's going to take too long, so you can just listen to the audio. So a control structure is a logical design that controls the order in which a set of statements execute. So far we've only used a sequence structure, so we'll just note that down. So we have, I'll just do a star comment here. So just a few of the notes. Decision structure. So struct is going to be short for structure. So a decision structure. Then we have control structure. So a control structure is a logical design that controls the order in which a set of statements execute. So far in this book we've only used this type of structure, which is, well, in C# they call it a sequence structure. But you can, the way I think of it is just normal execution, which is just line by line, basically up to down or top to bottom. So for example, if the code starts here at this line here where the mouse is at line 38, so it just goes line by line from top to bottom like this, going down. So first 38 is executed, then 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, and so on. So a sequence structure is a set of statements that execute in the order that they appear. So that pretty much is just normal execution, line by line, top to bottom. Which probably is a better definition than these docs. So the sequence structure is pretty much the main, is like the main execution of a program. But it can't handle every task, right? Obviously sometimes you don't want to go line by line, you want to skip things, do other things if other things don't happen and all that. Or you may want to come back to them later or something like that. So you can't solve everything with just normal line by line execution, or in this case a sequence structure in C#. So there's an example of that, which we don't really need to, like there's a problem, for example, you can't solve a certain problem with just line by line execution. Probably just skip that, we don't need to do that. But the main point is that we can solve the problem with a decision structure. So another note here, decision structures are also known as, I could have just done AKA, also known as selection structure, at least also known as in C#. So a decision structure and a selection structure is the same. Excuse me. So in a decision structure's simplest form, a specific action is performed only if a certain condition exists. If the condition does not exist, the action is not performed. So there's a UML diagram here, we can skip that. We haven't done UML. Probably should have, I didn't include that. There was a time when I could have included that. Apologize for that, I didn't really think of starting the YouTube channel till after that class. But they're pretty simple if you want to look them up. You can use a program called StarUML. It's free to design your own. I'm sure there's some good YouTube videos out there, or just some information online. They're pretty simple, there's nothing complicated about them. They're just diagrams with arrows and boxes. They have like different kinds of arrows and all that, with like different types of arrowheads and all that. For example, an open arrowhead could signify polymorphism, perhaps. I kind of forgot. I might do that in the future. A playlist on that, so yeah, so if you guys need to know that, you don't really need to know that, to be honest, but you may have some questions on that in school or whatnot. Okay, so the first thing which we'll talk about is a single alternative decision structure. Don't really talk about the specifics too much. You may get tested on them. I don't remember this stuff in Java or Python or C. They didn't really go over it too much. Could have just been the book though. The C programming book that everyone uses didn't have too much on this stuff. It just kind of went over the codes, that's about it. So I guess in C# it's a little bit more in depth. Microsoft wants it to be a bit more in depth, so we have a single alternative decision structure. Only provides one path. Sorry, one alternative path. Alternative path, basically away or from the normal execution, which is like line by line. So hopefully you can still see that. You can always just zoom in if you can't. If you can't zoom in on a phone, I'd recommend just watching this on a computer or something. Whoops, sorry. So we have so if the condition basically is true, then we'll do an example of that right now. I don't really have the diagram for you guys. we'll do the. I'll explain it. I'll explain the code example. So we have so example here. Actually, that's kind of can't see that well. So if we have if, so this is a conditional statement. Conditional statement, for example, like if. Have we talked about booleans yet? I'm not sure if we have, but for example, we could just say, okay, well, if. Let's actually put a statement in here then. If val is equal to 5, then we'll say, okay. Then we want to execute this statement. Which would be like, for example, now val, I don't know, set val to 4. Or something like. Val 2 or next val, whatever. So if one condition is true, so if val is equal, the point of this single alternative decision structure is that if val is equal to 5, then if only val is equal to 5, which means that this statement is true, then we want to proceed into the square brackets. So if val is equal to 5, then if and only so if val is equal to 5. Remember, 2 equal signs means is equal to 5. Then, in that case, we enter the first square bracket, then we go inside. Then we say, okay, well then in that case, if val is equal to 5, then next val is now next val now points to 4. But if the statement was false, let's just say val pointed to 4, or any number other than 5, then this block here would get skipped. So it would check, the compiler would check, okay, well is val equal to 5, or does it point to 5? It's going to check, okay, well it doesn't, because val points to 4. Because val points to 4. Then if val points to 4, then this block will get skipped, and next val will not get to point to 4 this time. Maybe next time or whenever. At some other point in the code, you may have a reason to set next val to 4, if that makes sense. So this is a single alternative decision structure. There is only one alternative path. So it's pretty much just one if. Just a single if in that case. I believe that's what they're trying to get at here. So let's just talk about that. So we have the statement begins with the word if, followed by an expression enclosed in a set of parentheses, which is basically the square brackets. Actually, sorry, apologize. Parentheses, they mean this thing here. These two parentheses there. Not the square brackets, I think, or the curly braces that they sometimes call them. So the statement begins with the word if, followed by an expression enclosed in a set of parentheses. So the expression here in this case is val is equal to 5. The whole thing is if val is equal to 5, or if val points to 5, whatever. So beginning on the next line is a set of statements enclosed in curly braces, so that's correct. These are the curly braces here. So the execution is now at line 48. So the expression that appears inside the parentheses is a Boolean expression, so this val points to 5, that's really a Boolean expression, so that's kind of That's important to know. So this is a Boolean expression. We may have not talked about Booleans 100%, but we're getting to that if we haven't yet. So if val points to 5, this is a Boolean expression because val can either point to 5 or it cannot point to 5. So it only has two. It only has two options or choices. Only has two states. I think they call it 2 states. So it only has 2 states. Either it's true or it's false. And see, they signify that with 0 or 1. Basically, I think 1 is true, 0 is false. I don't think you can just use numbers here in C#. But basically, you can use this. This is like a switch. So you can turn the switch on, you can turn it off. You can think of like a light switch or something, or some kind of car switch, like a radio switch or something like that. Maybe the old school cigarette lighters or whatever joint lighters they have in the car. Those they used to have those. Push the thing and then start to heat up, and then you pull it out. It would be hot like a molten piece of metal. You could light something with it, like a smoke or a joint or something. Don't smoke and drive. Don't smoke pot and drive. I'm not emphasizing that. I'm just saying, if you were to park your car somewhere and like chill there for like 8 hours, whatever's legal in your state or province. But I'm just saying, if you had, like, basically a switch is that. So you have a switch that can turn that lighter on, right? So you can either have that lighter on or off. So it only has 2 states. It's either on or off. There's no third state. There's not like it's on and it's off. It can't be. It can only be one or the other, right? So in this case, if val points to 5, then it's true, which is one of the 2 states. And if val does not point, so if val points to 5, then it's true. That's one out of 2 of the states, possible states. If val does not point to 5, then it's false, which is the second out of 2 states. So there's only 2 states. So hopefully that makes sense. Someone overseas was like, what's a joint? What's he talking about? Alright, so moving on. So we have basically just a bit more on notes here. So when an if statement executes, the Boolean expression is tested. So a Boolean expression is one that can be evaluated either as true or false. So it's like a switch, and it's true or false. Maybe I'll just put that here. So it only has 2 states, either true or false, and it's like a switch. You can turn it on or off, basically, on or off. So when the if statement executes, the Boolean expression is tested. If it is true, the statement that appears inside the curly braces are executed. The statements that appear inside the curly braces are executed. If the Boolean expression is false, however, the statements inside the curly braces are skipped. So that's what we mentioned. So we say that the statements inside the curly braces are conditionally executed. Because they're executed only if the Boolean expression is true. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, so that's pretty much it. So there's another way to write the if statement. You don't need, I recommend using them, but you don't need the curly braces all the time. If you only have one statement after the if. So for example, if val points to 5, then you can, this is like Python basically, you just have to indent with the tab. You don't have to indent in C#, but you can indent. You're supposed to follow like the proper, what's it called? Like in English they have grammar or something. They have like a word sentence structure. You have to like put a space after the period, or sometimes you can do 2 spaces, or after a comma you should do a space and all that. So basically in code, on the next line you should indent if it's a conditional or a loop or something. So since it's a conditional, you want to indent. So in Python you have to do this. It's like the way that instead of curly braces they use indentations, which makes it more like English or perhaps other languages, like other languages similar, like French, Spanish, maybe Italian, perhaps German and stuff like that. So they have, so pretty much that's it. So you just indent. So here we would put, okay, well in that case then next val points to 4. So this is another way to write the statement. I recommend always doing this just in case you want to add more, but you can do this if you really need to. It's Python basically, so this should work exactly, it's almost exactly the same as Python. Okay, so it's about 22 minutes in. Okay, so when an if statement written in this form executes, the Boolean expression is tested. If it is true, the one statement that appears on the next line is executed. If the Boolean expression is false, however, obviously the statement is skipped again. Curly braces are not required when there is only one conditional executed statement, so that can be confusing when you're starting to learn code. I remember that was kind of threw me off sometimes. Because at some point, if you're just starting to learn code, then you want to be like, okay, well then I want to set next val or something to I don't know, second next val. You want to set second next val to like 3. You're trying to do it only if val points to 5. But you're gonna there's gonna be an error in your code, and when you finally realize that the code didn't work properly because there was no curly braces. So if you have more than one statement, this isn't Python. So if you have more than one statement, then this would work in Python though. But in almost every other language, if you want this second next val to point to 3, only if val points to 5, then you have to use curly braces. So hopefully that makes sense. That should actually be like this. That should be like that too. Okay, but in this case that was just an example, so this is what we're getting at here. This is the correct way to do it, just without the braces. So Microsoft recommends using the curly braces all the time to minimize errors. You may want to practice without though, because on a test you'll see both ways. They kind of do that to throw you off, which is probably good because it helps you helps your Python a bit more. Anyways, because everything in Python is done without curly braces, only indentations, which is I think maybe 5 spaces or something. So that should conclude everything for now. We still have Boolean expressions and relational operators. We still have the next type of conditionals. Which we won't talk about. First, we're going to do a lab after we do that, which will practice a single alternative decision structure, which is just one single if. Then we will talk about, should have the else in there, which, let's see, the if-else statement is the dual alternative decision structure. So we'll be getting into that. So thanks for watching, guys. If you guys liked the video, you can like and subscribe to the channel to support the channel. So thanks for watching. Hopefully I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.